So Fishing Sister is land-based fishing. So all of these tips that we're going to give you are in that context. It's quite different for boats, so just bear that in mind. So we're currently on holidays on Kangaroo Island. Lucky us. We need to decide where to fish today. So we're going to use these 8 tips as a way of demonstrating how they help you decide the best place to go to be able to catch more fish. So we've got a website, fishingsister.com.au, which has these tips on it. We're just going to work through them now. So the first one is wind direction. Wind direction is critical first factor to consider when fishing, because if the wind's in your face, blowing hard in your face, it makes it really hard to be effective with your casting. It makes it hard to cast out. You certainly can't use floats because they'll just come straight back in. And it's really not very nice. Your comfort factor is important as well. You want to be able to enjoy your fishing. So first thing we look at is wind direction.
On our web page we have a link to an app which is called the Windy app. This is what the icon looks like. If you download that on your phone, you can have a look at what the wind direction is anywhere probably in the world. The Windy app is what we use to determine what direction the wind's going, so that we choose a location where the wind is on our back. So what we're going to do is have a look at that app, have a look at the wind direction, and you'll see the wind is highlighted in different colours. So if it's blue, it's good. If it's green, it's bad. And it's got arrows on there that shows you which way the wind's going. So there's nothing worse than fishing with the wind in your face. It's also harder to cast out. So best option is to have the wind on your back.
So tip 2 is to choose a fishing location based on the wind direction. You might be interested in rock fishing, jetty fishing, reservoirs, lakes, beaches. Have a look at the areas that you would like to fish in relation to that wind direction. So you might be wanting to do float fishing off rocks. Well, the wind has got to be on your back definitely for that one. It's not going to work otherwise. So once you've figured out the area that is going to be good because of the wind direction, we use Google Maps to have a look at it under the satellite mode, to be able to actually have a look at all the beaches around there and think, oh, that's in exactly the right kind of spot to be able to fish in this with this wind direction. So we use Google Maps also to have a look at gutters and things like that on beaches, but we're always very mindful of the fact that beaches change. Each time you go to a beach it can be different. There could have been a big storm, could have filled up those gutters, maybe it's created new ones. So yeah, we don't take it for granted what Google Maps says, but it's an indication. We've done a really useful interactive map that shows the whole state, and if you've found that you're in a particular part of the state where the wind's coming in this direction, you can hone in that area on our map and you can have a look at where we've fished in those exact locations and see what the fishing was like. So that's a really useful map. That's on our website. So we've looked at the wind direction, and then we've gone on to Google Maps and we've had a look at the areas where that wind direction might work for us, and we've chosen a spot to fish.
So we're using this fishing app. So on this app, the blue sections are the tides. So the big blue triangle here is the high tide. The green sections are the best fishing times. So you've got the major, which is the light green, and the minor, which is the dark green. So if you can fish during one of those green times, you'll increase your chances of catching a fish. And it tells us, that blue section here tells us that the high tide is tonight between 6:30 and 8 o'clock. And the best fishing time is between 4:30 and 6:30, which is a couple of hours before that high tide. So it always seems to be best to go either before or after high tide. So that's what we've chosen to do. So we'll be heading off to the beach soon to go down there and set up ready to fish at 4:30. We've caught fish outside of those times as well. So this is only a guide. So it also depends on the sunrise, the sunset. We have a video on that. You tend to catch more fish during the sunrise and sunset. Salmon come in schools. They come swimming in and they swim off. If you're there just at that particular time, you may catch fish outside of those zones. So this is only a guide. So this afternoon we're going to be heading off to the beach to be fishing at 4:30 in that green zone, which is a couple of hours before high tide. So they also give you a guide on how well you might fish during this day, and today it's a 1-star, 1 fish day, which means the chances of catching a fish is unlikely. That 1 fish day is generally related to tide time, so if there's lots of movement in the water, you tend to get more fish. It's a 1 fish day today, which kind of says to me it's probably not a very high tide. And that's all dependent on the moon. And this app also shows it's a half moon, and it shows you where sunrise is. So it's quite a helpful app to use. So we have on our website links to these apps. We're not recommending any particular app. We actually change apps every now and then because they update them and we don't like them. Pick an app that you like. Some are more complicated than others. So we find this app very simple to use.
Tip 4, decide what species you're going to target. How do you know what fish are likely to be in the area to target? You need to have a look at local fishing reports, go into a tackle store locally if there is one. Also look online and see if there's any Facebook groups, because that way you'll start to find out what fish are in the area at the moment. So if you're really new to fishing, you may not even know what these species look like. So when you're hearing that there's salmon or mullet or salmon trout in an area, you can go onto the SA Fishing app, which is a brilliant app. You can have a look on there, see what those species look like. You'll also see how many you're allowed to keep and what the minimum sizes are. It's a really useful app. Just be mindful that when you're out on these locations, out on beaches or whatever, you may not have any internet. So don't rely on that app to be the only way that you know about the species and their limits. Go into your local tackle store and see if they've got a guide. Sometimes there's a laminated sheet that has all the species and all the legal limits and that kind of thing on it. And it helps you also to quickly look and go, oh yeah, that's a salmon, when you're on the beach, especially when you're just starting out. It's a very helpful thing. Tip 5, take the right rigs and bait for the species that you've decided to target. This is so important. You need to know what the fish that you're going to target like to eat, and the hooks and the setup of your rig that's most likely to catch those fish. So there's plenty of info out there. Do your research on YouTube, on the internet, and find out what those rigs should be and what that bait should be. We always say take more than one rig and more than one sinker, all that kind of thing for the target species, because you could lose that rig in the first cast. You need to be ready to lose rigs. You can make the rigs yourself, or you can buy them pre-made from your tackle store if you want to do it that way. Just make sure you've got more than one, and make sure that you have the ones for each of the common species that you're likely to catch at that location. So when it comes to bait, when you've had a look at what the bait is that's most likely to be attracting that fish, make sure that you have more than one option. Keep all the common ones. We like to always carry salted pilchards as an example. They seem to be tasty to so many fish. We salt them ourselves. We've done a video on that. People use them fresh, but we find that they fall off the hook really quickly. So pilchards, cockles, again, you can salt your own cockles. We do this as well. There's a video on salting cockles on our YouTube channel. So pilchards, cockles, squid is fantastic bait. And the other one is gents. Gents are a fantastic long-living bait that is great for so many different species. And don't forget your lures. Lures are another thing entirely. People use soft plastics and lures. We really just focus on bait, but we always make sure we've got a few silver lures in case we see a school of salmon come past, so that we can sight cast the salmon. So have a few of those on hand. But if you're interested in soft plastics, that's another whole piece of research to do. It's something that we really don't do, but there's certainly an option for you. So if you're really unsure, why not go to our interactive map, our South Australian map, which shows you all the places that we've fished. And if one of those locations is where you're going, watch our video, because we always show on our videos what we're targeting, what rigs we're using, and what bait we're using. So that will help you get some ideas. Tip 6 is use burley. Use lots of burley. It really is the secret weapon to fishing. We think it's essential. So when we're fishing off the beach or maybe off the rocks, we'll use a mesh bag or a bucket. and also off the jetty we'll do this at times as well. And in that we'll have fish frames, leftover fish offal, anything that's kind of gone off as well, like an old bait, we'll put it in that bucket. And that really creates a smell. Particularly like pilchards are fantastic because they're such oily fish. It gets that smell out into the water. But they're expensive, so we tend to use our fish offal. It's a great way of using it up. We keep it in the freezer, grab some before we go fishing. If we're fishing for salmon and we've got big burley springs, we'll put our pilchards, we'll squish them up into those burley springs. That works a treat because that takes the smell right to where you're fishing. If we're fishing for garfish and tommies, we might use feeder floats or little burley springs hanging under floats. They've got the breadcrumb burley in, which is breadcrumbs and some spices, some tuna oil, and that really again takes the scent right to where you're trying to catch your fish. Mullet, this is an absolute surefire way of getting mullet to come to you, is to have that breadcrumb burley in a spring. Sometimes we'll also buy the burley logs, and you can chop bits off, make them into pellets. You can buy burley pellets as well. That's more of a slow release, and you can put those into your burley buckets as well. So don't forget your burley. So point 7, where might the fish be? So you've checked your wind direction, you've chosen a location, you've looked at what fish species might be there, you've got your rigs and your baits sorted out, you rock up at that location. Where might the fish be at that location? This is a really important part of the process. So say you're on a beach, you rock up at the beach and you look for the gutters. In a lot of our videos you'll see us talking about the gutters, how you can see the waves, then you'll see a flat spot, and then you'll see the waves forming again. You're just looking for those patterns to see where the gutters might be, where the fish are swimming up and down. So the first thing we do is we look for those gutters. It's really important to remember that it's not always about casting out as far as you can to the horizon. You might just go straight over where the fish are. They're often at your feet. It's important to know where the gutters are because they could be very close and you're just casting into those gutters. If you're targeting whiting, then you'll be looking for the clear spots, the reedy and weedy areas. You'll be casting into the clear spots that are very close to the reedy areas because the fish will come out, hopefully, and grab that bait from those spots where they're hiding. So you're looking for the sandy spots within broken bottoms and weedy areas for whiting. Garfish, you're looking for reedy areas to throw a float over if you're lucky enough with the wind direction because they like to hide in the reeds. If you're on a jetty and you're targeting squid, you'll be looking at the jetty for ink stains, also for lights if it's dark because the lights attract the squid at night. So when you get to your fishing spot, assess the area and try and figure out where the fish might be. It's great if you can get up high, a bit of a vantage point to look down over the water. But you know, when it's really cloudy, you can't see into the water anyway. So just do the best that you can. We've rocked up at locations and they're absolutely full of seaweed. So it's really about trying to find the spot on the beach where there's the least weed. You know, these things can take you by surprise. If we turn up somewhere where there's a lot of weed in the water, we just don't even bother because it's just impossible to fish. We just go and find another location nearby. We always like to have a plan B up our sleeve because things like that can happen.
The last tip, tip 8, is about your comfort. So you want to make your fishing day as comfortable as you can, and that depends on, you know, the weather, the temperature, etc. So wearing appropriate clothing for the day makes a big difference. If you're cold and shivering, you're not going to enjoy yourself. If it's cold, make sure you rug up, wear lots of layers. We wear a winter waterproof jacket if it's really cold and wet. So if we're on the beach, it's a little bit chilly when we wear neoprene pants and also boots, which help keep you warm. If we're fishing on rocks, we generally wear like work boot, you know, like safety boots, because they are good for walking on the rocks and they offer like good ankle protection, so you don't sprain, you know, avoid spraining your ankle. If it's sunny, make sure you take your sunscreen, your hats, long sleeve shirt, that kind of thing. If you're lucky and you can get your car down there, that's a great makes it a lot more comfortable because you can take all your gear with you. If you can't, take a lightweight chair sometimes. If you're going to be there for a long time, take a lightweight chair, you can sit down and relax. Make sure you take some food. I get hungry, you have to eat. I can't be there all day without eating, so make sure you take some food. So there you have it. So if you're dressed appropriately and you're comfortable, you got some food, you're going to have a much better day. So that's our 8 tips to help you catch more fish. Not guaranteed, but it'll make a big difference. Today we followed those 8 tips and we've identified a beach that we're going to go to and fish at 4:30. Let's see what happens.
So we hope that these 8 tips help you catch more fish. They certainly help us, and we use this process every time we go fishing. All of this information is on our website, fishingsister.com.au, and don't forget there's links to the relevant apps on that website as well. This is all about having fun. If we don't catch fish, who cares? Being out there in nature, enjoying fishing is what it's all about. It is a bonus when you bring home dinner, but you know, if you don't, you don't. That's fishing. But we're going to go out and put it into practice today and see what we can do. First up, we looked at the Windy app, which showed northerly winds at 20 kilometres an hour. After checking Google Maps, we decided Pennington Bay would be perfect as the wind would be on our backs. We checked the fishing app and high tide was 6 p.m, so that meant we needed to have lines in by 4:30 to fish the rising tide. We checked out the KI fishing group on Facebook and read some fishing reports, and there's been a lot of salmon and mullet around. So we've decided to target mullet. We took plenty of mullet rigs with us and gents for bait. We took breadcrumb burley to use in our burley springs. Finding the best spot to fish was easy because we could clearly see a good gutter when we arrived at the beach, so we headed straight for that. We fished for a couple of hours and caught mullet and a few salmon. I got my battered mullet for dinner, yum. So try our 8 tips and see if you can improve your catch rate.